So I bought a mute switch.
Oh, okay. Let's talk about your mute switch, and then we'll talk about this DJI Mic 2s, because I've learned something cool about them.
So I bought this mute switch because there's no real mute on any of the Zoom Essential recorders. And occasionally you need to mute.
Yes, you do.
And I'm often not in the window that I'm in right now, which is Zoom, because I'm, doing something else or frantically Googling a thing or something. Well, usually not in the Zoom window. And I don't have and of course, you know what? A hotspot might actually work.
Hotspots are not reliable.
Yeah, that's the thing though. Sometimes when they don't work, then they don't work.
But when they do work, it's like, holy cow,
they're
I can
amazing.
do everything.
Yeah.
Yesterday I had a hotspot set on a mute button for inside a virtual device in loopback, so I can mute my microphone real quick. I had a hotspot on QuickTime on the play button so I could play the audio, and then a hotspot on the Zoom mute button so I could easily mute and stuff. And they worked 3 out of 5 times. But it was pretty cool to be in Safari and all of a sudden, I need to jump over to QuickTime to hit the pause button because we're pausing now. So I just hit VO0 and it was right there.
You're there.
098. And I'm like, man, if this could just be consistent and reliable.
It just isn't consistent. Like sometimes it just loses. And I wonder what it is. Like I wonder if it's like the window moves or something. I have no idea. But yeah, that's the problem with that. So anyway, I bought a mute switch. It is I'll have to go look at Amazon and tell you what it is. It's a basic mic switch. You plug in. So the way this one works is one of those inline mic switches, and all it's basically doing is just killing the signal coming from the microphone. But you plug your microphone XLR into one side, and on the other side you run a XLR cable from the mute switch to your interface, and there's your mute switch.
And it works reliably.
And the only thing I don't like about, and I feel like I know I had one of these, but I feel like the one I had years ago that I sold, and this is back when the Yamaha AG series was kind of hot. They also had no mute button. So I bought one of these, same company, but I feel like the one I had then was the opposite of this. And so with this one, I have to push the button down and let it lock. So it's a latch switch. So you press it down and it stays pressed or depressed or however you say that.
Yes.
And that lets you hear me. I feel like the other one I had was, so if I press this button and let it up, of course, muted. I feel like the other one I had was the opposite. So when the button was up or not pressed in or locked, that's when I was unmuted, and then you could press it to mute, which would be better because what I could do in the cases where I don't really need to mute for an extended period of time, I just need to cough or something, is I could press it down slightly, because right now I'm kind of holding my finger on the button so you can hear me because I haven't locked it down in place.
Right.
But I feel like this. So tell me if you can hear this. I'm going to stop talking and then I'm going to mute and unmute a couple of times.
Yes.
Yeah, see, that's the thing I don't want people to hear. Now I can carefully do it. So if I were muted, for example, I still hear
a little bit of a click.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, that's the problem. Like, that's the thing I don't like about it. But I think you got to do some soldering or something. And
maybe you can't just flip it around.
I don't think so, but I got to do a little bit more research. When I asked GPT, it was like, "Oh, you're gonna have to, do this and then solder this back together and buy this." And I was like, that sounds more complicated than it really should be.
Maybe I'll return it, and you should try asking. Go to innosearch.ai. This is not sponsored by them, but if they want to give me some money, please do so. I have used them a couple of times to buy some stuff, but go to InnoSearch and type in exactly what it is you're looking for. See if you can find one if you're within the return window for that. But that's cool that you have it though and it's working. It just sounds like you're mashing the mute button on a Soundcraft Signature 12 MTK. It's kind of what it sounds like.
That is what it sounds like.
Except for the Signature 12 MTK, it mutes before it gets to the bottom, and I think this one does too. So as you're pushing the button, it mutes you, and then you can lock it into place.
Yeah, see, that's what that's the behavior I would prefer. This is exactly the opposite of the track. So you're unmuted if the button is not pressed, and then as you're pressing it, it unmutes you on the way to being locked in place. So you could do it kind of like a push to talk if you're. So this would be good if this was the situation here. Hey, Mike, I think you may be on the wrong mic.
What? You think I'm on the wrong mic?
Turn your headphones up a little bit.
What? Turn them up.
So if I were just having to randomly talk as opposed to on a conversation, then the leave it muted and then slightly depress it until I'm unmuted, say what I need to say and let it go and nobody hears the click.
Yeah. You know what you could do? You could just get an Evo 16 and set up that talkback feature.
So I'm gonna stop you right there simply because, man, I don't even have room on the desk for the crap that's up here right now.
Yeah, I feel you, man. Oh my God, it is horrible. It is horrible. I have to make room for myself on my desk. So this means that I need to send some of these phones to the places I need to go. I need to figure out what I'm doing with this other device and get its box off my desk because I don't want to throw the boxes behind me because then I'll never find it again. So I need to figure that out. I just got a new package today of ham radio, cheap radio, Chinese radio stuff. So that's sitting on my desk. I've got this box you sent me below the desk. I'm like, there's no room left for me in my office area.
Right. That's the terrible thing about it. Now, one thing but I don't have anywhere to put them, right? So there's some cabinets that I decided I would keep from the old house because they weren't attached to anything when we moved in. They were just sitting on a shelf in the laundry room. And they're nice shelves. I was like, oh, I'll take those. I'll probably put them up on the wall for something out in the garage or in the office or something. Well, right now they're sitting on my desk. Now they were sitting on the floor, but I took them and put them on my desk. Since doing that, there's no longer anywhere to put them back on the floor, but they're kind of taking up a lot of space on the desk and they're not going to work on the desk. Like above the desk on the wall, great. Sitting on the desk, not as useful because now I can't open the door with the laptop here.
Maybe it's time to get that project done with all that extra time you have.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, I do need to do some research, so I can look at what I need to do. I think I have the actual pieces of wood I need. I just got to find some studs and put these. The thing is, I want to actually flip the office around. Like the way my desk is facing right now is I'm staring at a wall. The back wall.
Your back's to the door and you don't want that.
Yeah. And see, I want to flip the desk around so that my back is to the wall that I'm currently looking at and I'm facing the door. So I don't really want to, even though it'll be useful to put these cabinets up and get them out of the way,
put them up.
Stick them on the wall. They're staying where I put them. Like I'm not taking them back down.
But is that a bad thing? Because they could be above your head, and then you could have storage above your head while your back's along the wall.
Head, though. That's the thing. Like I would lean back, I would forget about them because I wouldn't have gone at them for 2 weeks or something, and then I'll just pop up and bang. Also, I would have to move the desk to actually get back there to put them.
Gotcha. And if you're moving the desk, you might as well flip it around and be set up to flip it around too.
Yeah, but I don't have enough space behind me because there's boxes. Let's see, there's some chips on that side. There's some crackers on that side. Yeah. But anyway, basically, so I got to I'm going up in the attic with a flashlight and Ira or Be My Eyes or something. And get that sorted out because it occurs to me that, hey, if it's decent up there like I kind of feel like it is, that could also be some overflow storage, which will get a bunch of this stuff out of my office.
Meta Ray-Bans, man, you could just go up there hands-free with your phone in your pocket and just have them look around the loft.
That's the plan.
Say, hey.
I just want to take a flashlight. I need a bright enough flashlight, which means I probably will have a phone in my hand.
True.
Of some sort for the flashlight because Tia's LED flashlight, I can't get the battery piece off to put new batteries in it.
So
speaking of a phone, my favorite Pixel of all time, the Pixel 5.
I thought we were going to talk blind shell.
No.
Pixel 5.
Pixel 5. So the Pixel 5 is the Pixel 5 that I'm talking about is running the Graphene OS, which probably doesn't make a difference in the grand scheme of this, but it's running that secure OS, not Google's Android. But I have seen AI on there. When I tell you and I got to try this on a standard, just Google installed Android, but seeing AI is like infinitely better on this. What is that now? A 6-year-old phone, maybe?
Yeah, it'd be 6 because they're 9.
than it is on the iPhone. Like it's like I was using it to count money yesterday, and it was just so like the response time of like recognizing a bill was like instantaneous. It was like Looktail days,
So
like quick. Doing it on the iPhone, it's like, man, what in the world? Why is it taking so long?
this episode is partially brought to you, or brought to you in part by AT Guys. See, in part because we can. Partly, it's brought to you by AT Guys.
In part, this show is in part brought to you by. I think how you're supposed to say that.
Yeah. And of course, mostly by our tip jar subscribers. So thank you for you guys. But
shout out to the tip jar subscribers.
Brought this up because this morning I installed Seeing AI on the Blind Shell Classic 3. And I hadn't thought about doing that until I was playing around trying to think of some apps to install. And I got that installed, and man, it's pretty snappy on the Classic 3 too. Like it does pretty good at it. And then you just press and hold the down button to get to the very last channel, and then you can up arrow through your channels. I'm torn on this Blind Shell Classic 3 though. Not sure what I think of it. And I will bring my thoughts when I share them on Double Tap, and Steven helps flush them out of my soul. But the Blind Shell Classic 3 is an okay device. We'll leave it at that. That's not a raving sale.
I kind of feel weird poking at you about it because we both work for AT Guys and we sell the phone. But on the other side, I gotta poke at you about it. So that's interesting that app is snappier. Maybe it's an Android thing because like Seeing AI is really starting to suck on iOS. And it feels like it resets itself like every week and a half.
So you have to tap the button that says "Don't show this anymore," and it's like, I thought I just tapped this "Don't show this anymore" button.
Oh no, it's worse than that for me. It's like, oh, you open it up and it's like you must agree to the terms.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, I've seen that too.
And
the camera's not the best on the Blind Shell Classic 3 though, and that does impact. Like it captures some text quickly, but I do have to fiddle around a little bit to find the text. Barcode scanning is pretty awesome on the Classic 3 though.
Yeah. Now, I haven't recently used the Pixel 5. I just noticed it when counting money. Like, this is way more responsive to the point that my iPhone will be in my pocket and I'll go search for that phone today when I needed to figure out what a couple of bills were. I was like, I'm going to go get that phone. So that's very weird. One question about the Blind Shell Classic 3. Is it one of those scenarios where the potential is there, but it has not been realized? Would that be a fair statement?
Yeah, I think so. I think the potential is there. It just hasn't been taken far enough, which gives me enough limitations. And I call myself a fairly advanced tech user. I mean, I almost said I'm not sitting here writing PHP scripts to automate my WordPress site, but Copilot's helping me do that. So, but the point is I can use technology without any problems. In most cases, I find the limitations of the Blind Shell Classic 3 very quickly. So the phone is not a phone for me. For example, when you copy and paste text, which is a big thing that I forgot that could be done, but can be done on the Blind Shell Classic 3, you can only copy and paste text out of an edit field. So you can't be reading an email, press and hold the top left button, which is the info button, and then get put into some sort of text selection mode where you can select text out of that email. If you forward the email and the email text is in the text of the email itself when you forward it, then you can navigate through word by word or character by character and then do a selection if you wanted to at that point as well. And I quickly, once I did some copying and pasting, said, I want a clipboard manager on this, but I don't think that's going to happen. Yesterday, I was playing on Zoom to do some testing for a customer, and I went back to the home screen, was doing something else, and then realized, oh, I'm still in the Zoom meeting. That's interesting. So that's handy. I don't know how to get back to the Zoom meeting. Actually, I think if I would have opened the Zoom app again, it would have put me there, but there wasn't like an app switcher I could just switch over to. And they have added some functionality to the top left button where when you're on the home screen, you can press and hold that and adjust voice output settings quickly or adjust screen brightness. So that could be handy for someone who needs to quickly make changes on the fly, or someone who fiddles around and mutes speech output and needs to know how to get back into speech output and unmute that. But it's a little thing like the web browser. It still acts like it normally would. Android apps pretend like they're web apps. So if you're not in an edit field, from the 2 apps that I tried so far this in, I could hit number 4 and switch to controls and jump by controls within an app. So once you get more comfortable with that type of stuff, you could easily quickly learn how to do different things and get different places in apps. But it's still got enough limitations. What was the app that I installed the other day? And it got all the way downloaded and installed and then said, nope, just kidding. This ain't going to work. I forget what it was.
Gmail.
Gmail. Yeah. Yeah. It was Gmail. Like I was super excited. I'm like, oh, this is going to be cool. I can multi-select my messages. And I never tried K9 or Aquamail like I was going to, but it teases you. It downloads, installs, and then says, never mind, can't work with this app.
Yeah. So I got some bad news for you. Most Android apps are just web views.
Yeah. Yeah. That is true.
So, and I haven't used this phone as well. I'm asking questions for people listening, but it is an interesting conversation or interesting thought process because we personally and professionally are kind of trying to figure out where this phone fits at for certain people. So it sounds like to me, again, that, and this is, some, I don't know if I should say that. Edit point. Hold on. Let me think for a second because I don't know if I should say that the way I was about to say it, which is based off conversations before the phone came out. This is kind of what we thought it was going to be, but I don't think I should say that. Okay, let me pick that back up. Based off reading about specs and hearing firsthand or secondhand reports from people before either of us got our hands on the phone, it seemed like they had made some improvements with the 3, but it's still not to the level that, say, a confident or competent, I shouldn't say competent, that makes it sound like other people are not competent, a confident, advanced user of iOS or Android would quickly run into barriers, whereas a lot of what you have mentioned seems like it could be major enhancements for people who were users of the 2.
Yep.
For sure. But at the same time, it's also introduced a little bit more complexity. Like, how would you have actually gotten back to the Zoom meeting is a question that I kind of want to answer to now, because that's interesting, because in the past with the 2, if you were to back out of that app and go back to the home screen, well, you're no longer in that meeting. You just left.
Yeah.
So that's different. So again, I guess to me, at least, it sounds like they've definitely pushed the boundaries of the phone out, but they probably didn't go as far as they should have or could have gone in some instances. So there's still limitations when it comes to, I'm used to doing this on Android or being able to do this on iOS, and now I can't, copy and paste.
Well,
unless I'm in the edit field. Or
I think one of my biggest disappointments with this device, and you and I have talked about this, and I won't be shy about this because I'm thinking about the target audience for this device. These are individuals who don't have the tech skills or desire for I can't say who don't have the tech skills, because actually a lot of blind shell users have decent tech skills. They just don't want to deal with a touch phone. They don't want to deal with having to interact with iOS or Android with a touch screen, and they feel more confident with buttons. That also comes with they don't have the dexterity, or in a lot of cases are unwilling to pop the back off the phone, pop out the battery, and slide a micro SIM card into the back of the phone. And my biggest frustration is, at this price point, why couldn't you guys have added support for eSIM? And I think eSIM would have made that a lot more of an attractive solution for for a loved one to purchase a phone to get for their parent or someone, because they could easily make sure that the phone got activated, whereas the parent has to take it into the store in a lot of cases, or the loved one has to come and put the SIM card in for them. And that I think is one of the biggest challenges with this phone. And it seems weird, but it is.
I know, I get it, because, like, I mean, not having eSIM today seems very weird. If I were to experiment with making this a carry phone for me to really, kind of see where those limitations are, where the workaround cases may be, the first thing I got to do is decide how and whom I'm going to get a SIM card from, because
Yeah.
all of my SIMs right now are eSIM, which makes it super easy for switching between. I mean, it was easy to take a SIM card out and put it into a different phone when that was a thing, but that's really kind of not a thing anymore.
Right.
So yeah, eSIM support would have been, that's a missed opportunity. I put that right up there with the thing that I was extraordinarily disappointed by, which is no 5G support at this point. Because I feel like even just on the lower, like, you don't have to do I get them mixed up. Whatever Verizon has that everybody doesn't seem to have here in the U.S. I think it's millimeter wave, but I might be wrong. But even if you just went with the basic 5G support, like, to me, that again is kind of a staple of a device at the price point that it is. And for as long as, at least from our experience with AT guys, is people tend to hold on to these phones. Like, they're not flipping them over every year, or they're not just people buying a phone and like, oh, I got this phone and also have this phone and I got that phone, and that's my daytime phone and that's my whatever phone. Like, people are using this as their device. And again, like you said, for a lot of people, it's not a lack of know-how. It's not wanting to deal with a touchscreen, or just that little bit more focused, when it comes to navigation and consistency in the behavior of the device, has seemed to be the reason a lot of our customers have chosen the Blind Shell Classic 2 and probably will go to the 3. But not having 5G, man, that's rough. And the eSIM is really rough, because one, that's easy. Like, you could virtually walk a person through that, or somebody, you could walk somebody through doing an eSIM, in most cases.
It is more difficult to walk you through orientating a SIM card in the proper way.
Yeah. Because what I think of as a lip may not feel like an actual lip to you. So, you're looking at the side of it, not the, front of it. And what is the front of it? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't. No. So I got some new microphones a couple of weeks ago, and today I was playing with them. So we got the DJI.
Oh, Valerie let you take them out and play with them. Huh? Okay.
She said, "You are such a nerd" when I put it on, so she didn't know I had it until I took it to there. So the DJI Mic 2s come with a wireless receiver, this one has two lavalier mics, and two transmitters. The transmitters have a place where you can plug in, I guess it'd be like hats that you put on the top, and these have built-in windscreens, so you can clip the transmitter to your shirt, for example, if you don't really care that it's being seen, and it has a microphone right there that you can use, and it comes out pretty decent. Or you can use the lav mic, and it has a cord that you run up your shirt, and you can either clip the transmitter to your pants or throw it in a pocket. And then there is the receiver, which has a section on the back that's covered by a plastic cover, but it also has two adapters that you can use. You slide the adapters on. One's for Lightning, one's for USB-C, and it orientates the receiver so the thicker side of the receiver goes towards the top, or goes towards your iPhone screen. So it kind of looks like it's something you could set your iPhone up on, and it would possibly hold it. Please don't try that. But that is how you orientate that. And it's got a couple of buttons on it. And I pulled it out of the box and press and held the button on the end of it. And that turned on that particular receiver. Well, I learned that all I needed to do was pull the transmitters out and press and hold the button. And guess what? The receiver and the transmitter sunk right up, and everything was working well. there is a line out jack on the receiver and a headphone jack. So what I did is I plugged the headphone jack of the receiver into the Vocaster 2 that Damashe sent me. And then I used my virtual device to be able to capture that microphone's audio and send it through to Zoom. But what was really cool is when you put them in the case, they only go in one way, at least they only magnetically go in one way like they're supposed to. So they kind of magnetically suck themselves into the right position and they charge themselves on that case, and you just charge the case with USB-C. And what I discovered was it was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be to pair the receiver and the transmitter up so we could get it up and running. So I can't wait to do a live event, plug these microphones into a couple of channels. Well, probably one channel because I'll use an 1/8" to XLR cable to go out of the receiver. That'll put any of those lavalier mics on their own channel, and then I can both record that channel somehow, probably in Reaper, and send that through into Zoom. But then I can have the Gemini wireless mics going into the mixer as well, mix all those together to send those over. So then we have 2 wireless mics and 2 dedicated wireless mics as well.
Yeah, which will be cool. Be very cool. Why not get a 1/8" to double XLR splitter to see?
I do have one of those.
Yeah, to see if that will run each mic into its own channel so you can have them on separate tracks.
I think it will, because you can set the receiver, which I believe the configuration part of it is not accessible. Well, I know it's not, but you can set the receiver to receive, and I believe transmit over USB / Lightning or out of the headphone jack or line jack stereo. So
yeah, that would be cool. Or get an 1/8" to double 1/4" and plug it into your stereo channel.
Yep.
And it'll go in the Reaper as a stereo track, but then, we all know the explode track.
Ooh, there you go. Yep. And then you'll have access to editing all of that. So it'll be fun. April is my next for sure live event, and we'll see where that goes.
Yeah. You should take them to see some.
Oh, I will. I have some CSUN stuff we'll talk about closer to the event. So the year of what? I think we'll jump into our themes now.
Yeah, let's get into the themes. First, I finally listened to the episode of Cortex where they did their theme kind of review of 24 and then what their themes are going to be through 25. Good episode. In general, some insights there to remind people, and go check out Cortex if you're really interested in the themes, like a deeper explanation of it. But unlike a New Year's resolution, which I've never been into because you usually fall off of those within the first 2 weeks of the year start. Like, I'm going to do X this year, not do Y this year. 2 weeks in, it's like, oh, I forgot I wasn't supposed to be doing this. I forgot I was supposed to start doing that. So there's that aspect. But a good example that I heard to kind of explain the difference in setting a theme for what you want to work on and do in a year. And it doesn't have to even be at the beginning of the year if you don't want it to be. Whenever you feel like starting it. But the difference in that versus a resolution is I could say with a resolution, I'm going to read 20 books this year. Well, if I only read 19 books, it means I didn't reach my goal of 20 books, right? So basically, to me, that's kind of a failure, right? That's how it's going to be viewed. You didn't meet the goal. Now, if I read 25 books, I greatly exceeded it. But if I only read 19, I didn't make it. With a theme, if I were to say my goal this year is to make this the year of reading, or I want to focus more on reading this year, well, as long as I read, then I have accomplished that goal, and whether it's I read 20 books or I read 5 books and 37 blog posts and 97 toots. I'm reading,
right?
Which is basically the goal, right? You're trying to kind of set a short-term goal that in theory is going to continue on beyond that initial year where that was your focus, because it'll just become a more ingrained part of your life. So, for example, for me, this past year was the year of connections. Now, I started off with this theme for 24 with the intent of it being like, oh, I'm going to, I'm going to actively work on being more sociable and getting, around people more and talking more to people, trying to make connections. Whether it's just, meeting people that have similar interests and discussing those interests, or making business connections, or just chatting it up with people because we happen to be stuck in the same place for a minute. That evolved over the course of the year, which is another interesting thing about themes to me, that I was realizing as I was listening to their episode and then doing some thinking about it after the fact. Is like my theme for 24 kind of evolved from just people connections to just connections of all sorts. Connecting the dots in my brain as certain things became, realized by me, like, oh, the reason this isn't working is because I'm not doing that. Or, the reason that worked is because these things were in place before we started pushing towards that goal, or whatever the case may be. Like, there's lots of different types of connections that happen. I didn't think about when I plugged this computer cable in. That's why I get battery, because I connected it. Like, I didn't devolve to that. But it did expand on me in a way that I didn't anticipate last year when we had this conversation about the theme for 24 of it being the year of connections, right? But it did turn around to me making a lot of managerial connections, for example, like realizing I'm probably not the worst manager to ever have tried to manage people, but there are expectations I had, which was a connection for me as to why certain things weren't getting done in the way that I wanted them done. And the connection that I had to make in my brain regarding that, and I'll take an example of people putting things in the machine, like putting chips in the machine, right? There are spirals, you put the chips in there. Sometimes a bag of chips will either be just too big because it's too big. Usually it's more because there's too much air in the fucking bag. But people would try to stuff a bag of chips somewhere that it clearly really wasn't going to fit and was going to end up creating problems. And I would think to myself, I would get frustrated. Like, why would you do this? Like, why would you do this? Like, you watched me, because nobody's going to, putting anything in a machine without having watched me do it a couple of times. And me explaining some basic details and stuff. But I realized the problem that I was having there really was my expectation, because a person could see. Well, let me back that up before I say it like that. I was expecting people to behave in the way that I would expect. And this person has vision where I don't have vision, right? And my expectation is I'm a very observant person. I can't see everything that's happening, but I damn sure hear quite a bit. I ignore a lot of it, but I hear quite a bit. I pay attention to surroundings. So my expectations were that, oh, you're watching me do this thing because I'm showing you what to do, right? I'm doing a visual demonstration of how I want you to do this. And the expectation is, if something doesn't make sense, why did you do that this way versus not doing it that way? You would ask that question, because that's what I would have done. Well, the connection I made there is like, well, one, you can't look in the mirror and be like, oh, well, I would do this. So obviously the next person would do it exactly the same way that I would do this. Like, no, that's wrong-headed thinking to begin with. So instead of making that mistake, as well as assuming because most of the people that have worked with me have been around me for, at least some number of years, so have seen me operating as a blind person, you expect them to pick up or have picked up on things that they obviously did not. So, the connection I made in regards to that is, as much as it seems like to me it should be unnecessary with certain people, you got to take everybody through the basics. Like, you just met this person off the street. You put an advertisement out somewhere, they apply for a job, and you just your first time meeting them. So start with that premise, and then you won't have so many mistakes happening, because you have taught everybody everything from square one, instead of assuming prior knowledge or assuming awareness to what you were doing, or attention being paid to things that they were not paying attention to, right? To me, that was a major connection, because one, it relieved a lot of frustration on me, because, relieved a lot of frustration with my people. For me, it was more frustrating because, like, you should have realized this, like, I don't know, a couple of months before this. But it took the frustration away from being with them. And it's like, oh, this is a problem that I can actually solve. I just have to work a little harder at training people versus expecting them to pick it up as we go.
That's interesting that you came to that conclusion. And it's one of those things that I'm sure you knew, but you had to make that connection to realize why it is that things were frustrating you because you didn't teach them the way that you wanted it done. And when you're making assumptions, you know what they say about assumptions. So
Yeah.
assuming.
But the thing is, like, I didn't actually think about. So the way that I was looking at this is like, okay, I'm trying to think. So if I could see, right, and you were showing me, like, you're a blind person, I'm a sighted person, right,
Hmm.
and you know how to put together radios,
Hmm.
and I'm getting into ham radio, and you're going to teach me how to put together a radio.
Hmm.
Well, I'm going to watch what you're doing. Like if I bring you a radio and you're putting it together, I'm going to watch what you're doing. And if I have a question about, hey, how come you didn't connect that wire? You connected those two, but you didn't connect that third one. Like I'm going to ask that question because I'm watching every single thing. Even if I'm just paying you to put the radio together for me, I'm trying to figure out like, okay, well, how can I do this? Because it don't seem like it's that difficult.
And I want to keep
But
paying
I'm,
it.
I'm going to ask questions. Uh, and so from me being an observant person and assuming that, and that's the assumption that I think maybe some blind people make that we shouldn't make is that sighted people see everything that we don't see because they don't sometimes see what we don't see either because everybody's not as observant as you think they are.
Yes.
Having 20/20 vision and the ability to drive, the ability to read small print does not automatically mean that you observe everything that you see. It's not they don't see things; they just don't observe it. They don't pay attention to it.
It's like that's
And that was the
thing.
mistake.
I don't.
Yeah,
I don't listen to everything I hear.
yeah, right. We hear a lot of stuff. We just don't listen to all of it.
Sometimes my wife wishes I listened to more, but
Oh man,
yeah.
I mean, that's kind of a side effect of that sometimes too. But also it keeps you out of trouble because you don't hear the thing that a person said over there that you might find very offensive had you heard it, but you didn't hear it because you weren't paying attention.
Yeah.
But I was expecting to like, okay, in the example of me with vision, a same person I am right now today, just having had vision my entire life or whatever, so I didn't have to make any kind of weird transitions of being able to see. I would be watching what you were doing as you're putting together the radio because I'm curious about that thing. Or if it was a job, like you come in, you show me how to do a thing. The example I used when I was trying to explain this to you, I was like, it's kind of like me whenever I've had a job. I come in, somebody shows me how to do a thing, and then I do that thing. You don't have to keep going over it over and over again. You want me to stack bricks? You show me how to stack your bricks, I'm stacking bricks. And I'm going to continue stacking bricks that way until either you tell me to do it differently or I figure out a more efficient way to get to the point of what you want it done. Well, everybody that goes to work does not think that way, sighted or not. So,
Right.
and that is yeah, in hindsight, I should have known this, but honestly, it did not occur to me until I was just sitting there doing some, a lot of thinking and analyzing of situations. Because, just like they say, if everybody around you is crazy, you're the one that's insane. If you take 2 or 3 different people through a similar situation and you end up with similar results, then obviously you must be doing something wrong at that point. That's how I looked at it. Or I've had 2 different people that have done things absolutely 100% ass backwards in certain instances and shouldn't have done it this way. So why is that the case? These are 2 entirely different people. They didn't know each other prior to, meeting through me. They've never actually worked together, totally different backgrounds, et cetera, et cetera. So what's the common denominator here? Well, it's me. So that means obviously I didn't do something right. So what's the thing that I didn't do? Oh, I made assumptions that I should not have made. Connection, light bulb goes on. Oh, I know how to fix this. I wish I'd have thought about this 6 months ago, but okay. I know how to fix this though.
And that connection helped with moving you forward, even though it wasn't necessarily a connection with another human.
Right. So that's how that theme expanded out on me last year. It's in unanticipated ways.
The year of purpose for me, I guess one way, because I listened to that podcast as well, and it really made me think a little bit more broadly about what it is that my purpose was in 2024. When I went into it, like you, I kind of had a narrow-ish mind of what that word meant to me or what that theme meant to me. And that was I need to do stuff and have intention behind it. There needs to be a reason for why I'm doing stuff. And a lot of times there was a reason behind why I was doing stuff. And I would say most of the time I knew what that reason was. But towards the end of the year, I started giving up projects that I was working on, and I started stepping away from different things. And I'm like, I don't know why I'm doing this, but there is a reason for some aspect of it. And then I found out fairly quickly, because Michael, you were overwhelming yourself by volunteering to do a lot of things, but that wasn't the purpose behind what I was actually doing, or why I was taking those actions. But once I took the actions and then stepped back and realized, oh, that actually freed up a lot of time. There was an actual purpose behind that. So I guess the best thing for me to say is, yes, 2024 was the year of purpose for me. No, I didn't always take action with knowledge of what the reason was, but afterwards, those actions tended to reveal the purpose to me. And that can be a struggle sometimes when you're trying to work your way through the year, and then you're like, why am I doing this? And then a couple of days later, oh, that's why. God, now I got more time, and I didn't have to know what the purpose was all the time, but taking that action sure helped. What is your yearly theme for 2025?
So thinking about this, and first I was kind of in a little bit of a panic. It would be the wrong word, but definitely getting a little anxious, because I was like, I have no idea what this year's theme is going to be. Like, oh, it should be the year of this. Like, no, that's stupid. I just tried to make something up, so I had a theme. So I didn't show up, but
Yep, I had a few of those myself.
But as I've been trying to do a little bit more, and a little bit more here recently, especially, is just not really letting things go, as in the sense of like, writing them off, but just letting them set aside. Like, I'm not going to forget about the thing because we got a show coming up dealing with this, but stop concentrating on it as much, go do something else that needs doing, and let it sit. And I came up with something that actually made logical sense when I started walking around and was doing other stuff in the house and looking at things that needed to be done, that I was like, I don't have time to do that right now. If I stop and do that, I won't get this done, and yada, yada. And what I came up with was a year of infrastructure.
I like that. Okay.
And for me, that's more kind of just going back to, not necessarily going back, but focusing more on the basics. Like my office, for example, it's an absolute mess. Now, my desk is not always going to be, spectacular, but there are things that need to be done that I should focus on doing, because that helps. Having a cleaner office makes it easier to come in and out of here. Also, having a cleaner office than it currently is right now would make it easier to keep it warm in here, because I wouldn't have to worry about, I can't set a heater right there because it might light that box on fire, and then we got bigger problems. So there's stuff like that, right? But also just, again, thinking about, the realization of like, okay, I really need to implement a actually more thorough sort of training regimen for people that come to work for me, because the people that currently work for me that are on payroll aren't going to be there forever. I can pretty much guarantee you that. But I can't onboard people and, 6 months down the road, I got a brand new person and there's no system in place, right? Like, I need to focus on systems, and part of, infrastructure to me is having repeatable systems in place. There are things like that that need to happen. Having repeatable systems for, and consistent systems for dealing with, bills. There's a lot more bills now, man. Like, I don't think I was planning on that part either. There's a lot more bills to pay.
Yeah.
Bigger bills and a lot more bills.
And it's all paper.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Like, getting rid of this paper. Geez, people still deal with so much paper. I don't understand them. I miss the only work I did was AT Guys and Bedrock, because there's virtually no paper.
Yeah. Yep. That's good though. Infrastructure to be able to get your going back to what Bedrock started with, getting the foundations of not just your digital life, but just the foundations set up so you can easily grow on those foundations and set.
Right. Yep. And that's the purpose of this year. Like, that's the whole point of it, is building identifying those situations that need to be, shored up and or systematically put in place, and making that part happen, and then able to move on without It's amazing when you actually do something. We've all been there where there's a thing that is constantly nagging you, whether you realize it's nagging you or
Mm.
not, until you actually get it out of the way and it's done. And then there's not a worry about how this thing is going to get done anymore. And like it takes away a lot of unnecessary tension or stress or aggravation or anxiety, whatever it is that it manifests itself as for you. For me, usually it's just aggravation and irritation. Because I want to punch stuff. Kick empty boxes across the, garage. Cause
And
it's
then
like,
you
oh,
realize
don't
they're
do
not
this.
all empty.
Oh, well, no, I don't. I haven't made that mistake yet.
Uh,
It's a very intentional destruction. Can't be kicking a box of chips across it. It's like, man, I just crushed half my product. Now I'm really pissed. There ain't nobody to beat up but me. You can't do that to yourself. Hadn't figured that part out yet.
Not yet. So for me, I would say this year is I'm curious if you saw this one coming. I guarantee if I asked Mallory, which I did not, she would say she saw it coming. Like you, I was chatting with well, I don't know if you were doing this, but I was chatting
I
with
actually did chat with
ChatGPT.
ChatGPT, actually. I meant to do that, and then it kind of popped in my head while I was doing something else. I was like, oh, okay, let me see. I'll see how to expand that, and it's as equally broad or can become equally as broad as last year's thing turned around on me. So, yeah, I think I like that.
Did you know you can call ChatGPT on the phone? What do you
Yeah, so I'm not doing that.
ChatGPT?
Who calls people on the phone, man? Like, gee.
Blind child users.
So, when I first heard about that, I did legitimately at the time think about people with the Blind Show Classic too, because the 3 wasn't out yet. And I was like, oh, that would be a way for people with the Blind Shell to use ChatGPT. Unfortunately, you only get, I think, 15 minutes or something a month.
15 minutes a month.
And there's no way for you to sign in with your account that you could be potentially
which means it has
for.
no memories, and it's on 4.0 mini. It's a good introduction to what ChatGPT can be like. For me, though, this year came out to be something that I thought really needs to be embraced by me. And at first, I'm like, I don't got time to do that. But then when I started thinking more about it, I realized it doesn't have to be me doing it all the time. So I think 2025 is going to be, and I think you don't have to, with your themes, stick to one word themes. But in this case, both Damashe and I did. And mine's going to be the year of education. I enjoy learning. I'm always learning something new, but I'm also very fond of teaching people something as well. So the education doesn't have to be always me learning in 2025, but there's some things in place that I'm working with to help people with learning the knowledge that I have as well, including with the podcast projects that we're involved in, or Club Unmute. There's a good opportunity to learn and get some money back. I was super proud, and I'll talk about these. I don't think I've ever not talked about these on the Technically Working, I'm Technically Working, but it's pretty great feeling when you have 65 members in your membership that are people willing to pay because of the knowledge that you and others have in order to help make their life a little bit easier. Another milestone that has helped us with growing and feeling more confident and helping and impacting more individuals is now we have 114,054 downloads on Unmute Presents, which is amazing. That's yes, we're posting a lot of content, but that's a lot of downloads. It's not uncommon now for me to publish an episode, and that one day has gone out to 264 listeners to be able to hear that. And then some content that I published earlier this week has gone out to be to almost 400 people. And that's where I get excited to be able to share that education with people and say, hey, Here's how you can do this, just to give yourself the knowledge you need to be able to take that and go learn something new. I don't know everything about, I mean, I don't even know a lot about WordPress plugin development or Python coding, but I know where to get the tools to help me with being more productive with those tasks. And if I can teach someone else, hey, here's what we did, then it'll make my mind think in a different way. For example, I was yesterday with Jeff Bishop doing a presentation to individuals who produce content for their affiliates in ACB. And we were showing them how AI text to speech and content generated with AI text to speech sounds a heck of a lot better than the AI or than the text to speech generated content you and I, Damashe, grew up with, because the voices have changed and it's super easy. And I said, well, one of the cool things I'd like to be able to do is take a document and drop it into the script that gets translated into audio and then downsampled to the level that it needs to be and then sent to VoIP.ms to replace the recording. And as I was saying that, I'm like, actually, that's not difficult to do. I just need to learn a couple of things. And then I just took what typically takes me 15, 20 minutes a month per project that I'm involved in. Right now, one, but if I had a way to automate it, that could grow, to take that content that I have in a text form and then get that put up on a medium that others can enjoy. And if you use the system and you apply it right, you can have it give you additional file formats. So let's say eventually you want to go make a podcast. Well, if you put a file in a folder in your Mac, for example, then Keyboard Maestro can take that file and go upload it to Pinecast for you. And then all of a sudden you've built the knowledge that you have for helping someone get their phone system updated quickly. And now you can help them get their phone system updated quickly and get a podcast episode out there, which then triggers IFTTT to publish content on social media. And each of those I know how to do each of those steps, but being able to integrate all of them together and then expand that is a good thing for me to learn and then teach others how to do. So I think this is going to be the year of education, both teaching and consuming.
Makes sense. Doesn't have to go one way. One thing you may want to look at with GPT is projects.
Oh, have you played with these? Because I've seen them. I've done nothing with them. I don't even know.
I actually just read the little dialogue pop-up thing that explained to me what projects were, and I was like, oh, that does actually sound useful in some instances where I'm working on something that is going to be an ongoing thing where you're going to save the instructions, the prompt that I've given it. So, like the don't be so chatty, that type of prompt. And the files and all of that are generated as a part of this larger thing. And it's like, oh yeah, I got a couple of projects that I'm working on now where I have 3 or 4 different chats where I'm constantly going back through history. Like, oh, I need to go tweak this a little bit, or I need to review what it gave me on that right there. So I'm going back through my history, or I could just make a project. So that's probably something I'm going to explore. Yeah, I kind of felt like you were headed down that path for education because we did talk about it the other day and you're like, no, I can't be education. And I was like, well, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean you're going back to school. It just means you're learning, right? You're always learning. You're just putting more of a focus on learning things that you want to learn, in more of a focus into the area of teaching. So being involved in some way in education, whether it's your learning or someone else's learning. But who knows? That could evolve. This time next year, Michael was like, yes, I ended up on the PTA board.
Yep, you never know what can happen. Speaking of learning, I learned today, did you know that you can chat with GitHub Copilot directly within ZSH or whatever the other one is called?
Bash.
Yes, Bash.
Probably some other shells too. Fish maybe.
GH space Copilot space, and then you can ask it to suggest, or there's another command that I forget exactly what it is.
I gotta try that.
You have to install. There's a process.
I do have GH install. I gotta install the Copilot extension.
Yeah, you gotta install the Copilot extension, and then you're already logged into. GitHub got money for me today.
So I actually don't use GH all that much. because, and the reason I don't use it that much, that's going to actually be a change in workflow for me to start doing that if it becomes useful, is because GIT space and then whatever I'm trying to do, I've learned from years ago before the GitHub CLI existed, and I could still do most, I don't say everything, but most of what I needed to do that their CLI does, regarding a Git repo from just using Git. All right. So I can create a new repository, from the command line. So I can start working on something locally. Like, oh, okay, I need to push this up to GitHub. So I can create that new repository on GitHub with just Git and, whatever command is. I have to type it. I can't tell you off the top of my head. And at times the the GitHub CLI, it was a little verbose. It's got to type GH create and something and something. I'm like, this is really a lot more typing than I want to do.
GH authenticate login. No, just GH authenticate should be what it would do.
Let's see, because to create a remote, okay, Git remote, and I forget. I always have to check this. I always have to type it one way and do it. Anyway, Git remote. Add, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry. GH auth login, not authenticate, but yeah.
Yeah. See, why don't you just GH authenticate or GH login? How about that?
There you go.
I actually think Stripe's CLI is just Stripe login.
Huh. Okay.
Yep, that got it there. Okay,
I need to play with the Stripe CLI. Do you just do brew install Stripe?
That might work. I feel like you have to. So I think when they first released the Stripe command line tool, you had to tap their keg first with brew. So you have to do brew tap Stripe/Stripe CLI or something like that.
You can do brew install Stripe.
But I think now you can just do brew install CLI and it'll go do those steps for you, and then pull it down.
Yeah, I just typed brew install Stripe and it worked.
Yeah, I think now we'll go. Brew has gotten a lot better over I'll say not better, a lot more user friendly. I think because it's gained in popularity over the past 3 or 4 years, to where a lot of things that I am used to having to go do, you don't have to do anymore. Like tapping something first, because Stripe is not a native part of the homebrew repository, right? So they have their own, Stripe has their own repository that they control. They just made it available for homebrew. You have to type brew tap because you're tapping a keg. Stripe/Stripe CLI, I think, is what you used to have to do. Same for the 1Password command line tool. You used to have to, basically it's like you're adding another repo to homebrew for it to be able to search. And then now you can type brew install Stripe and then it can go find it because you have actually added the repository that has Stripe in it. And now they just do a lot of that for you. So I think you have to do the same. You used to have to do the same thing for a couple other tools, and now you can just type brew install whatever, and it just goes out and finds it. Like, oh, tapping such and such, and then like now installing such and such. I was like, oh, look at you, homebrew.
So this Stripe CLI project looks pretty cool. Can if I shared what my code was that it gave me, no one else can use that, right? Or do you know?
I think it's a one-time use code. So like once you go.
Well, I just had to match it. I've had to make sure that it matched what was in the CLI, so you couldn't actually enter. So that should be fine. Anyways, they have some weird ways of doing this. So if you've never authenticated with CLI, I don't know if this is normal, but I must have misplaced it. But it's like some random 5 words that I'm like, that doesn't make a good sentence. But it's kind of funny. I don't remember what it was. But if you've never done this before, GitHub made me authenticate when I authenticated in the browser by typing or pasting in a couple of...
Oh, my Ardent Work Price Beauty.
What?
Ardent Work Price Beauty.
That's what yours is?
Yep.
Yeah, so you just verify that that's the code that's shown on the web page. For GitHub, it gave you a random letters and numbers that you had to paste into the GitHub site. So they are slightly different. But man, you've been telling me this for years. Terminal and command line is sometimes a lot faster. Sometimes it's a little bit more typing, but the accessibility is
so here's where it comes in to really help. Oftentimes, like there'll be tools like instead of you trying to noodle around with something, in a web interface or something,
Mhm.
you can just do it from the command line. The other thing though is aliases will very rapidly become a thing that you start creating if you spend any amount of time in terminal. I don't know how those work specifically in ZSH because I'm still using Bash because I'm old.
Uh-huh.
And the the Bourne shell is what I started with because I think that is what the current shell was at the time. I could be wrong. Could have been the Born Again shell by the time I got to messing with computers. But anyway, Bash has been what I'm used to. Whether it was the original version of this or the new version. So that's what I stick with. And also that's what's still on a bunch of Linux servers. So you SSH into a Linux server and you're looking at Bash unless you go change it. And I'm too lazy. Easier to change Bash to be my default shell on Mac than it is to change, I don't know, 9 Linux servers to be ZSH or something. But aliases are essentially, so if I want to, so alias is just a shortcut, basically.
Right.
You type a command and the command is stupid long. Like I don't actually know anymore what the exact command is for making a git commit, right? I type git space cm space and then either -a if I'm adding all changes or, the names of the files that I want to actually add to the commit before I commit. That CM does a couple of things for me though. It is doing the commit command with the flags added for sign the commit. So it uses my GPG key to, I think it may be a SSH key now, to sign the commit. So if anybody ever looks at a repo that I'm publicly involved in or sharing involved in, not to be public, they can verify that, hey, I actually pushed that commit because I signed it. It does something else too. It's, I forget what else it does, but it does a bunch of things that I found myself always hitting the little flags for whenever I was committing. Like I was always hitting the S, I was always hitting the something for something. I don't remember what it is now. So I just made it git CM and then that equals, whatever the actual command is. And the way you write that out in your bash profile is alias equals alias and whatever you want the alias to be equals and then whatever the actual command is. So for example, I have an alias where if I type RM, something, no, I used to have it was a save myself. If I typed RM, it would always ask me before it would just delete. And by default, RM doesn't ask you anything.
Nope,
You
it
type
just goes away.
Yeah, it goes away. So I used to have, and it probably
That's
still is
Michael
there.
about the Google Drive.
If I type RM space and then try to delete something, it will confirm that I want to delete said thing before it does. I don't remember how I did this. So I have to go look at my profile. But yeah, there's terminal. There's a lot of nice stuff in terminal that can be done. I can do a speed test from terminal.
Yeah,
Stripe
Copilot and
lead
VS
is-
Code though, man. That too.
So here's the thing though, I will, and this is one of the things that got me to using VS Code, and one of the reasons I wouldn't give up TextMate for so long, is because there's a command line tool for TextMate. And basically you would just type mate space in the name of the file that if you were in the directory or the path to the file that you wanted to open, and it would open it up in TextMate. So I could be over here in the terminal, pulling down a repo or checking the changes, making commits, but then I need to fix that thing right there because when I ran the code, it didn't work. So I dropped back in terminal, mate space, wp-config.php. And now I'm in TextMate and I fixed whatever the hell broke. So that WordPress site will actually load instead of telling me a database error or whatever. Nova, the editor from Panic, also has this, and VS Code has this. So you can open a file or a folder, an entire folder from within the terminal, directly in VS Code. And I think it's just code, if I'm not mistaken. I shouldn't do what I was about to do because I'd open my entire home directory in VS Code if it does work, and we don't want to do that. That'll take forever.
Did you install VS Code with Brew?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I installed everything with Brew unless it just ain't there.
Yeah, I'll have to find it because Brew install code or VS Code did not do it.
Hold on. I will tell you exactly what it is because I always have to search for Brew search VS-code.
Oh, I didn't try with the hyphen.
Nope. So I think it may actually be Visual-Studio-Code. I always have to check if I'm reinstalling that though.
Yep.
Yep.
I can get Visual Studio
Studio-Code.
Insiders.
Because there's a check mark next to the one that I have installed.
What is an at something? Because there's Visual Studio Code at Insiders and the Visual Studio.
So that would get you the insider build of VS Code. The at sign with Homebrew, if you do like brew install, I used to do this. I was wiping computers all the time and didn't want to touch 1Password 8. I'll type brew install 1Password at 7 or something like that, and that would get me version 7 of 1Password instead of version 8. Because if you just type the name, it's always going to pull the latest version. But if you use an at symbol, you can specify a version range, I think, or something like that. It's one of those things, like I don't really know the specifics anymore of how it works. Yeah. I just know if I want version 7 of 1Password, I'll type brew install 1Password at 7, and I'll get 7, which meant I didn't have to touch 8 for a long time.
Oh man, now I got Visual Studio Code Insider installed on the Mac. I have Visual Code Standard, Visual Code Studio released version installed on a virtual machine. So now I'm going to be coding all day long, but I'm going to be educating myself on how to code.
So Windows Copilot is stupid. I don't like it.
Did you know there's a Copilot app for your iPhone? You should try it out too.
I don't care. I don't care at all. Copilot, and look, I really hate they did this. Like, why did they do this? Other than because they're Microsoft. But why? Why did you have to name it Copilot? Because it's confusing in some aspects. Copilot for GitHub is pretty nice. I've used it in VS Code. I've used it actually inside of the GitHub app on mobile. I wasn't trying to write any code. I was having it explain to me what some code in somebody else's repo was doing, because I was like, that kind of looks like an interesting project. But what the hell is it doing? But to be fair, completely fair to Windows Copilot, I used it for a very quick query, and I'm trying to remember what I was trying to ask it. I think it basically got me the answer I was looking for, but it was still kind of janky and weird. Like, I don't like it. I don't.
It's a clunky experience. It's a very clunky.
That's it. There you go. That's the thing. Like, getting around in it was irritating, clunky. Like it didn't feel.
I'll go to chatgpt.com anytime over using Copilot.
Oh man, just go to chat.com. You're typing too many letters.
Yeah, I do that too. I actually just type C and it goes right there.
It's like, oh, he's going to chat with this bot again. Okay.
Yeah.
And, whatever redirections we got to make. Oh, man. But I did install a second Windows virtual machine a couple of days ago.
Okay. Good.
Just as a note, the PowerShell trick does still work.
Mm-hmm.
So we're good. I do have downloaded, because I'm still not sure whether or not it is installing the ARM version of Windows or not. So I do have downloaded the ISO of ARM. So I'm going to do a third machine at some point and use that ISO instead of having Parallels download Windows for me. There's also an update to
Parallels.
No, there's always an update to Parallels. No, the thing we use to navigate the Parallels to do the Windows.
VOCR.
There you go.
Yeah.
He's added some cool stuff in there.
He has. Definitely worth checking out for sure.
So VOCR.
So I think we should wrap it up today. I'm going to come back and tell people some of the things that I have learned about Keyboard Maestro next week. So
I forgot to give you feedback on your episode.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Do you have
other than telling you should put chapter markers in?
Yeah.
Because that's the thing you really should do.
Yeah. I need to figure out why they're not coming over, because I thought I was adding them, but I don't have a checkbox.
Are you adding them
somewhere
in Reaper?
Yeah. So there's probably not a checkbox checked somewhere.
Yeah.
There's a checkbox that says embed meta markers and metadata or something. It's probably unchecked. I just got to go find it. So
You are exporting it as a
FLAC.
FLAC.
Yeah, and markers may not come through on FLAC too.
I wonder if that makes a difference. You may have to export it as WAV.
Yeah. I'll try the same exact thing without changing anything and export tomorrow's digital byte as a wave. So if they have chapter markers, see what I'm doing here? Go listen to Unmute Presents on your favorite podcast app. And if they have chapter markers, then the secret was to export it as wave.
Yeah. There you go. So Mike did an episode. Well, Mike did a digital byte. One of 3 bytes. You got it. Can't even say the Apple because this lady was talking about Android. Overall, a good episode. Marty was talking about Just Press Record, which is a great app. Still an oldie, as he's put it, a oldie but a goodie. That app has been around for a very long time. But it's still good. It's still solid. It's not turned to crap. They have not turned it. I don't know how they're making any money.
Right? No subscription.
Because there's no subscription. I'm not sure that I would pay for a subscription because I don't personally use it that much. But the transcriptions are awesome. I don't know what they're doing over there. But they haven't really changed the app at all. I mean, it's up to date and it works with the modern stuff, but I don't know. Maybe that's why they're doing okay. Still enough people find out about it and purchase it. And they're not actually doing a whole lot of extra over the top stuff that takes a lot of development time. Anyway, Just Press Record, good app, works on the watch, iPhone, iPad, Mac. Do yourself a favor, convert to the high quality audio recordings. Just be kind to your audio editors if they have to exist in your world. Don't send them a compressed file. Just don't.
Chris talked about finding apps on iOS and Android.
I was going to say Chris, I'm like, but I feel like I kind of have met this lady and that's not actually her whole name, but yeah, that's what she said.
Yeah, no, that is her whole name, by the way.
Oh, okay. Well, no, that is not the lady I thought I met there.
Chris, anyway. She lives in Portland.
Oh, no, that is not who I'm thinking about at all. Yeah, you cut all that out. That lady that I'm thinking about is from Virginia.
Oh.
So it was all Oregon people. I guess Marty's in
California. Yeah. You left Oregon, so can't count him as an Oregonian.
Yeah, I forgot Marty moved to Cali. Yeah. But Chris talked about, what did Chris talk about? Because you just said
finding apps on iOS and Android.
Yeah, there you go. And some of the issues with the app library on iOS.
Yeah, keyboard locking up, which I've told her I can't duplicate that, but it was clearly happening to her. She could demonstrate it happening. So it's one of those weird things. But
could be what version she was on at the time it happened.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I had weird bugs, and it could have been because I was on it was actually the release version of 18 too. But I would pull down on Spotlight, and there would be no keyboard. It would be in an edit field, and the edit field would be active. Like there should be a keyboard here, but there's not.
But there was no keyboard anywhere. It's like you had a Bluetooth
there was no
keyboard
Bluetooth anything connected, right? Because this happened to me when I was miles away from my house, like literally in a whole nother city, and I had to use Siri. And what I felt was a very embarrassing way to say, open this app, so I could do a thing.
Yeah.
It irritated me. I'm now on 18.3 beta. Not sure it makes all that much of a difference because I don't notice anything different. But Mike's topic on digital bytes, because we keep getting sidetracked, was taking you through the process of setting up some macros that he's created. And he lets you know in there that if you go join Club Unmute, which you should do, right after you become a tip jar supporter to technically working, that is, go join Club Unmute. You get those directly, so you don't have to try to make it yourself. Now, I'm going to be honest. I didn't listen to exactly everything Mike said because I already knew about what Mike was talking about. What I did pay attention to was Mike's presentation of doing what is kind of a more advanced sort of deal, right? Which is an interesting lineup of show topics. Marty opens up with Just Press Record, which is, all iOS focused, all Apple focused, at least anyway. Pretty straightforward, simple app, not complicated. If you need something a little bit more fancier, or you want an very easy, straightforward way to get transcripts of recordings, that's the app to go with. Because I don't think Apple is doing that in voice memos yet. Chris's topic was still fairly on the friendly area of things, like a kind of like you're probably going to want to know how to do this stuff anyway. And she covered 2 different platforms, which is super cool, iOS and Android. Pixel 5 is still the greatest phone ever made. Man, I'm looking at this Pixel 8 Pro and it's like, geez, I really don't want to carry you. I don't.
You're
really
so big.
It's so big. That's the problem. It's so big, and that stupid underglass fingerprint. I could deal with the size of the phone. It's that underglass fingerprint reader that drives me insane. But nevertheless, and then we get into Mike with this like overly advanced topic for people who are on the Mac, who will use Keyboard Maestro and are also running Parallels on their computer. So
with JAWS specifically. Well, actually, no, I don't think that matters, because that quick side note related to that, the commands that are shared in that episode do map your key to an insert key. If JAWS is not behaving the way you expect it to, go into Sharp Keys and map your insert key to Caps Lock, because then your Caps Lock key becomes Caps Lock key for JAWS, and then your JAWS or your Caps Lock key and the number 8 will let you left click on things, whereas it will not when you're in laptop mode, because it thinks you're pressing insert plus number 8 and not Caps Lock plus number 8.
Oh, okay. See, that's a part that I missed, or a nuance that I missed right there, because one, I don't use
Me
JAWS,
too.
so I probably tuned out when you started talking about JAWS anyway. Because my expectation would be that if you set your screen reader's keyboard layout to be laptop, that automatically makes your Caps Lock key become a modifier for said screen reader, that everything else should just work the way it's supposed to work.
Unfortunately, I have learned that JAWS key as Caps Lock in laptop layout has different connotations than an insert key being used as a JAWS key. So insert T will still work. That's still going to read you your title. But insert left bracket isn't going to route your JAWS cursor to your virtual PC cursor. Caps Lock left bracket in laptop layout will map your JAWS cursor, your virtual PC cursor.
So you're solving for the people who have an actual insert key.
Yes.
To deal with. Gotcha.
Yep. And I didn't realize that that's what I was doing, and I was getting frustrated because someone wrote to me and said, hey, this isn't working. And I'm like, yeah, it's not working for me. But then that sent me down, again, year of education, the path of trying to figure out, why is this not working? Like for me, for probably since I figured this out, 2 months ago, some time ago, I've just dealt with some of those idiosyncrasies. But then when people are reaching out to me to say, hey, how do I solve this? Why is this not working right? Then I'm like, well, I don't actually know, and now I need to figure out why that's not working. And then I was able to figure out with the use of Sharp Keys, I think. Sharp Keys is what I'm using on Windows, and tried that out, and it worked just fine.
I still haven't installed Sharp Keys, but I do now have a development Windows environment, so I will break everything over there. Because that one virtual machine has to stay as pristine as it possibly can.
Yep.
Got to get this in there sometimes. Gotta work. A quick update, and I haven't revisited this, but my Bluetooth adapter trick did not immediately work.
Okay.
But I will follow up. I'm also plugging it into a dock, so I did assign it to the Windows machine that was running, but that may not make a difference. I'll have to do a little bit more testing.
More to come with Keyboard Maestro is where I'll leave that at, because I want to play with that a little bit more and learn more about it. Thank you, ChatGPT.
Yeah, just well, actually, you could do this. If you start getting into where you're going to have it click buttons for you, at least from what I've heard, I haven't tried this myself in a while, but I have experienced it. Position your window, because you can do that with VoiceOver, like move your window to the same grid spot on the screen, like the top right corner or bottom right, or whatever, because it gets weird when it does what you tell it to do, but it's following coordinates of what you did, and then those coordinates are not exactly the same. So now it's clicking on other stuff, and you're like, wait, no, don't delete that. No, wait, crap.
Yeah, I'm gonna not get there yet, but we'll see. we'll see what happens.
You'll get there eventually because you're going to want to make it automatically upload something for you or something.
Yeah, like Pinecast, and there's still no
Let's see
API
what's
to
happened
upload
first.
podcast.
Does Mike try to automate uploading a podcast to Pinecast, or does Pinecast give us an API to do that thing first?
I mean, with watch folders and Alphonic and templates, like I could set some magic up to happen for sure. Anyways, I want to thank all of our tip jar subscribers for listening and supporting the show. We appreciate you. You have gotten some early content, not too much bonus content, but some early content from us. Usually it's content that comes out Saturday or Sunday. This one's going to come out on Sunday, and everything is working again. I'm not duplicating the posting of episodes, so that's good. And
you're welcome.
Thank you, Damashe, for letting me know.
Oh, no, I was telling them they're welcome.
Oh.
Why am I getting this twice? I'm confused.
And if you're open
it
to...
pays, it literally pays, in this case, to subscribe to your own tip jar in our case. So you can see what's going on with the show. Because I was like, wait, why did I get this episode twice with JJ? I listened to this once. Like, what's going on?
Send us an email, and Damashe will tell you how to send us an email. I don't know, I'm torn, actually. So, Damashe, what are your thoughts about shout outs for tip jar subscribers? I don't want to shout people out in order to keep their privacy because they support the show and they may not want their significant other knowing that they're supporting the show, but both of them listen to the show, or maybe they just don't want people to know that they support the show. But I also think tip jar subscribers I'm thinking of what Tom does, giving people quick shout outs at the beginning or something. So let us know if you're interested in that, I guess. What do you think?
Yeah. Here's a guarantee we can make for sure. We will never mention your name if you don't give us permission prior to doing such. So that's that.
So if you support us and you send us an email and said, hey, I don't care if you mention my name, then we'll shout you out or something. We'll figure something out.
Except for subscriber number one. We're just going to forever refer to you as subscriber number one. Yep. Although that person also made it clear that they did not need the public recognition. So, but thanks subscriber number one, because you were the first.
And you came back when Michael messed it up. So thank you, subscriber.
Which is awesome. But thanks to all of our supporters, because you do help offset some of the cost of operating this show, because we have to pay for certain things. I want to thank everybody that listens, because even if you're not financially supporting the show, you are supporting the show by downloading and listening, and in a lot of cases providing feedback. So we appreciate that. Another thing you can do is tell other people about the show. If you're getting value, assuming because you're listening, you find it valuable, I'm sure you know somebody else that would find the show equally, if not more so valuable. So we appreciate you sharing. Follow us. Would have been a good time to hit the mute button, except I haven't gotten used to having a mute button. We're going to end up sitting it back because it's like, I don't ever push the button.
Right.
Follow us on social media. Follow us on Mastodon, because I'm not anywhere else. I don't think Mike is actively anywhere else.
No, not actively.
So if you follow us on Mastodon, or you can do this if you choose a different social media network, such as X, the social network formerly known as Twitter. Yeah, I like that. Threads or Blue Sky,
Instagram,
LinkedIn. When the show comes out, you'll know because you're subscribed. You could, drop us a little share out there on your network of choice if you find the episode valuable. YouTube is also a good way of doing that, because YouTube gives you some share buttons, makes it super easy to copy the link, so you don't have to do too much work. And we are publishing the show to YouTube. You can send us email at feedback@technicallyworking.show. You can follow us on Mastodon. I can't do it. On Mastodon. He is Payon, Payown, at dragonscave.space. That's DRAGONSCAVE.space. And I am Damashe, DAMASHE, at technically.social. And hashtag technically working, capitalize the T and the W. And hey, I just discovered this. I'm assuming this is a Fediverse, yeah. Fediverse
Yes.
wide
Yes.
thing with Mastodon that you can follow hashtags. If not, you should get Mona. But otherwise, you can follow that hashtag if you choose to do so. I am now following this hashtag, and I will eventually figure out how to get notifications for said hashtag.
You might be able to run that action button in the top right corner.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Look, it's a lot of buttons in Mona.
Yeah. Yes,
Mona
there
got a
is.
lot going on, man. It's a lot going on.
Not
in Mona.
complaining, but
No, I'm not complaining at all. It takes me back to
spring.
Twitter. Well, no, even before spring, like the old Twitter apps,
Oh.
like
Twitter.
Tweet List and stuff like that. Like, yeah. But thanks to everybody for listening. This has been, I don't even remember the episode number.
93, maybe.
I don't know. Thanks to everybody for listening, and we will see you next week.